See what the headlines are across Nigeria. And I have with me in the studio public affairs analyst Shijibomi Adebi Bennett, and as well as a political technocrat, Dr. Dayo Kayode. Gentlemen, good morning.
Good morning.
Nice to see you.
Baraka de Salah.
Oh yeah, Baraka de Salah to you too. All right, let's begin with the Blueprint. Blueprint newspaper is where we start from this morning. Bello to ex-leaders. Don't incite Nigerians against Buhari. You find that there. And Lawan, Ganduje, Sanusi, others preach peace, unity at Salah. Exactly. You find all that kind of messages this period of time, of course. All right, from the Blueprint, let's go to the Nigeria News Direct. News Direct says China-US trade war threatens Nigeria, 2019 budget. The foreign reserves, oil prices nosedive. Federal government must review $60 per barrel benchmark. President Abcon is saying this. And you have a piece, mass transit bus returns 2.2 billion naira mistakenly paid into his account. Okay, that's a good development there from an honest Nigerian, you might say, from that window. And Bayelsa Kugipol's return of traditional trade and money, rather, unsettles PDP. Others, well, those are all the headlines you see on the front page of the News Direct. Let's move now to Daily Trust. Daily Trust is recalling how 20 people, 80 animals died in Bauchi Road accident over the weekend. Has been tragic in a way, if you put it that way, how 20 people, 80 animals died in Bauchi Road accident. You can get all that detail there. And a beautiful picture of a Durbar in front of the Daily Trust, certainly in honor of visiting President of Guinea, Alpha Conde. All right, gentlemen, if we have to look through this very critical headline on the News Direct, it says China-US trade war threatens Nigeria 2019 budget. We see that the 2019 budget was pegged at $60 per barrel, and that's the benchmark for the 2019 budget. And the price of crude oil, international price of crude oil, had risen sometime to almost $70, and then it came down to about 62, and now it's about $58. I wonder what you make of this, how this is going to impact economic activity for the year 2019. Dr. Kaide, let me start with you on this.
I want to look at that particular issue from two angles. There's an adage in Yoruba. When somebody dies, you always want to look for what is it that has killed that person. Trade war between China and US. For goodness sake, why should it? Yeah, it should, but must we even be having sleepless nights over it? I don't think we should.
But if it affects...
even you...
If it affects Nigeria, because the world is a global village.
What we are saying is, what level of preparedness have we attained in terms of, number one, to what extent have we been able to diversify our economy, to have a hold on our own economy, to ensure that if anything is happening within our environment, we have a good shock absorber. Number two, to what extent are we even ready to be able to play accordingly within the global market? Let me tell you this. It took us how many months before we could come up with a list array of some ministers to be accredited by the Senate. Since when they have they started work? They're just there doing nothing. All these things affect.
They are waiting for a retreat. There's going to be a retreat on the 15th. It's going to be this week. So after this week,
what stops them for going for that retreat? Immediately they were all being accredited by the Senate.
All right.
See, these are issues that we need to look at. The way we affect our economy is far more than what is coming in from the outside.
Right.
So we should, as a country, as a people, we should learn to sit up.
All right. That's being proactive. Shijibumi, the point there is, Dr. Kayode mentioned the issue of diversification. That word has been one of our very common lexicons for a period of time now. And Nigerians have been saying, well, the country is already diversified one way or the other. It's just that sometimes when there is an international shaking, Nigeria also feels the shock because we have relied solely and totally on crude oil.
Yes. No country lives in isolation anymore. It's a global economy. And when the two biggest economies in the world have issues, you are going to have issues, one way or the other. And this is about economy. It doesn't have to do with extraneous issues. If China has devalued its own currency. Mm-hmm. So when they do that, that means the level of import in China will drop. China will not compete favorably in the market. You know, these countries are not like many African countries. They plan ahead. So the level of stock in terms of petroleum, even when the crude oil price was high, it was because the likes of US and these countries were always stockpiling because they plan ahead. They always have like a quantity that is always in reserve. So they have reduced all these imports, especially China. And you don't take a population of over 1.3 billion people for granted. So the second importer of crude oil anywhere in the world is India because of the population. So when there are no demands, when there are no competitive demand, then the price of crude oil will come down because these things have to do with law of demand and supply. So that's why you can see it drop from like over 60 to 57, where it's going to be temporary. Because no matter what they hold on to, they will need some other time to make up for that hiatus. Let me use that word they've not been able to import. So these are the things that are happening. Okay. I also subscribe to the fact that we should always plan ahead, because it's not just about the crude oil. American economy is going to have issues now. But how are we going to get... I was reading something on Yahoo News yesterday, and it talked about Americans fleeing America. Now, they have data. So the amount of people that have Googled on best way to leave America, how to leave America, have really increased. There are some families in Holland now. So all these things have a part to play. And I think the man at the helm of affairs in the U.S., even though some of us could think maybe he has his own shortcomings too, but he knows what he's doing. He knows when to pull the plugs.
Exactly.
So these are the things we need to do.
All right. That is his own style for his own country. If we have to look at our own style for our own country, Dr. Kayode, what do you think it should be right now? Because at the international level, economy don't just go alone as economy. It goes with politics. It goes with a lot of things at your disposal, as the case may be. What do we have in our arsenal to deploy in this case to help the country?
The first question is, do we even have a style at all? We have always been vacillating.
So what should we do?
From one thing to the other.
Yeah, what should we do now?
The only thing we should do is to develop a national identity. This is who we are as a people. And this is where we want to be as a people. What is it that will make us to be able to attain that level as a people? By the time we are able to come to all that, then there is no way that Nigeria will not emerge. Let us have a good population census. Let us have a working constitution. Let us have a good, fair, and equitable democratic institution and democratic activities. You see, all those things put together will make us as a people, and then we'll be able to have a well cut out and defined style.
All right. A well cut out and a defined style. All right, let's go back to the issue of data now. You've just mentioned the issue of data. How important is the issue of data as knowing who is where and all of that? How important is all of that to planning the economy or planning for the prosperity of the country?
Very, very important. And I think we've left so many things for the federal government. The states can also take up something. Because when you know the number of people in your country, when you know the number of visitors, you know the number of indigents, you're able to plan. Not just for the country, for the state government, for the local government. So that is why, you know, it's only when we want to have elections that we talk about there are 4 million people in Ekiti, how many number of registered voters and all that. But it doesn't, see, we have to know the number of people of marriageable age in those, so that you can plan for maternal.
The demographic constitution of our population.
That's very important. All those things are important because that's what every country that we think we can term stable, that's what they do. When you know all these things, you determine a lot of things. You can plan ahead. You can know what can affect your population, what can affect your economy.
But the population has become a commodity, a political commodity.
That is
so
why
to
the
say.
other time. That's why the other time I mentioned a workable constitution. When we were saying yes, the states can do some things. There are a lot of things that states are supposed to be doing that they cannot do because of the kind of constitution we have. I remember the other time when the last time we had our population census head count in Nigeria, and Lagos State was saying, look, I want to have my own. I knew what it took Lagos State then to be able to have, a parallel census head count in Lagos State. So there are a lot of things in the constitution that need to be amended for that constitution to be workable, so that Nigerians will be able to know that yes, we are living in our own country. The moment that you put everything tilting towards the federal government activities, then the states, the local government will not be able to do anything. Let the federal government undergo their own population head count, and then let the state also do their own. Then we now do a kind of comparative analysis, then we do all this addition and deletion. Then we'll be able to have a very good demographic characteristics of Nigeria.
Or at least an acceptable figure.
Yeah, with that also, we'll be able to do what Aliko Dangote was trying to say just now, when he was saying that we should be able to,
Consumer credit system.
Do you understand? Without all those data in place, we can't do anything. We can't. Then all this data of MTN, Glo, this, BVN, federal government should find a way of matching all those things together so as to be able to come up with a concretized data system. Without doing that, my brother, I've even said we don't have any style anyway.
Shijibumi, do you believe we don't have a style? Because the point there is that we move on. Sometimes we make all the gains. Other times, it goes up and it goes down.
We vacillate.
The motive is always very important.
Okay.
So, and I wanted to chip in something that time. So, but I think he has addressed it as well. Why we have all even Lagos State, sometimes all these things are geared towards political benefits most times. Look at LASRA. What's the seriousness behind it? Can other states now emulate that and put a lot of seriousness, not just for economy, not just for economic and political benefits, but for, educational benefits,
development,
for
social benefits,
social
benefits,
development, total development.
So as of today, you cannot say this is the number of citizens in Lagos State. We have 20 million, 22 million, 24 million.
Who says 16?
So let's put some seriousness into it. And I like to use stable states, that have been PDP for 20 years, have been APC for 20 years, and that don't look like they can change anytime soon. So why the hurry? You can plan ahead. You can do a lot of things within the time that you are in control and lay that solid foundation. Lagos State has tried in so many ways, but in terms of data, let's do something serious.
All right, we have to leave you here now. Thank you very much, Shijibumi Adebi Bennett. Thank you very much. Dr. Dayo Kayode, thank you very much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Right.
Look at stories making the headlines and the papers this morning. Well, it's Salah, and that is reflected somewhat in the papers. Talking about the review of the papers this morning, I have here with me Dr. Dayo Kayode, public affairs analyst, as well as Shiji Adebi Bennett. Good morning to you both, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Happy Salah.
Salah.
I've heard of Dr. Kayode's breakthroughs in the Salah meet expedition. I don't know about you. How about you?
It was just moderate.
Oh, I see. Yeah. So you had a bite yourself. That's
Is there
good.
a difference between expedition and moderate?
All right, so let's check out the papers. Sadly, though, we begin with Daily Trust, and the lead story there is totally sad. How 20 people, 80 animals died in Bauchi road accident. We understand this occurred over the weekend. A really sad one at that. For Blueprint, the lead story there is from below to ex-leaders. Don't incite Nigerians against President Buhari. Lawan, Ganduje, Senuse, others preach peace, unity at Salam. Let's check out Daily Sun. Still talking about that horrendous Salah tragedy. 26 killed in Bauchi and Lagos. Sultan, Wike, other governors greet Nigerians at Eid el-Kabir. That's Daily Sun. Now, let's move on to the Nigerian News Direct business angle. We see there China-US trade war threatens Nigeria. 2019 budget, foreign reserves, oil prices nosedive. FG must review $60 per barrel benchmark. That's from president of ABCON. So we are seeing implications of this foreign war between the U.S. and China. For The Nation, Jonathan's ex-aides and senator linked to Morrissey Wu's 1.2 billion naira cash. Recall that the former INEC chair was arraigned last week and granted bail for this 1.2 billion naira alleged fraud now. The rider goes on to say 6 others under probe over election bribery fund. So much to ponder on this Monday, on this day, so to speak. But let us look at the national issue now about calls on Nigerians not to incite the rest of the country against the president. Dr. Kayode, what's your take? Don't incite Nigerians against President Buhari. Now, this is an advice, so to speak, to former presidents. How apt is this advisory?
When you're talking of incitement, that means you are telling people what they don't know about someone for them to be having a kind of probably negative mind towards that person. I won't say that. Can somebody now incite me against Buhari? No. Because all the facts and figures I need to know, they are in the public domain. As much as I always tell people, even though President Buhari is not the real or the only cause of what we are facing in Nigeria, but he himself is not showing a kind of a body language to resolve these issues. One, insecurity. Look at it recently. I think last week, late last week, some policemen went somewhere to arrest a kidnapper kingpin. And some soldiers killed those 3 policemen and freed the kidnapper. Has he come out to give us a statement on that particular incident? No.
Well, he has. He has, but of course, some have also said how sufficient is his directive.
That's what I'm saying. It is that one sufficiency. Do you understand? Look at all the killings that we have been seeing. Has there been any directive that, look, let us have an half-mast flag for a particular period of time? 20 people were killed about a week ago in a state of Texas. 20 people. And the president came out to say, sorry about this. Let us respect them for the next 5 days. But every time they kill people, nothing. Look at what is happening to our foreign reserve. Of recent, ministers have been wherever by the Senate. Have you been able to give them portfolio to start work? You are saying you want to go for a retreat. Instead of you to hit the ground and let our economy move.
All right. Oh, okay. So
And look at it now, the world economy is now affecting us, and we are not prepared. Look at even diseases, Ebola, that is now ravaging Africa. How prepared are we? So many things, happening, and nothing is being done.
Challenges.
So it's not going to incite me against sin. Already, I've already incited myself.
Okay, Shijibomi, do you agree with Dr. Kayode's position now? Specifically now, the ability or the body language of the president, there's been so many tags now on the Buhari administration about the capacity to handle these challenges. How capable is the government?
I will take it from the beginning about the statement, don't incite Nigerians against the president. Anybody trying to do that is just doing its disservice to the nation. That's one. Number two, there is no way you can incite against the president. Maybe Nigerians don't really understand the kind of polity we have. There are two divides already.
That's which and which?
It's pro and anti. Once you mention anything, there is a divide that sees it as
people have already taken the stand already.
So no matter, we're not objective as a nation again. So if there's something good happening, there will be an underlying reason attributed to it just to take the credit from the government. And if there is any bad thing happening, there is the other divide will also take it out on previous governments. So there's been a way that, okay, let me cite an example for you very quickly. The IPOP spokesperson, Emma Powerful, released a statement over the weekend that they don't want military checkpoints in the southeast again, which is good, laudable. But he now spoiled the statement and his approach and his, what's it called? His request by saying because the Hausa Fulani-led military is clamping down on them. I'm a Yoruba. And the soldier that killed the guy in front of his house is named Johnson Ajayi. Can you get my narrative? Now, how is Johnson Ajayi
related to Hausa Fulani?
Related to Hausa Fulani? So, and we see when people like that talk, and we don't have a nationalistic approach coming from like an Ohaneze to counter that and have a general and objective view, then there is a problem. And we were I'm so sorry. We were talking about something before we came on board. The nationalistic approach and the patriotic approach. Now, people are following in the world now, like in America, they're following the nationalistic approach more than the patriotic approach. It's a problem.
But one would even say that nationalistic and patriotic are one and the same.
You see, they look the same, but when you look at it, the nitty-gritty of the two, you're going to see the difference.
Because that is what we still need to cover.
Yeah.
Talking about, ethnic divisions, religious and all in the country.
Patriotism now. Let's look at Nigeria as a country now. Patriotism is about Nigeria as a whole. Okay? Patriotism. Yes, I am a Nigerian. But when you are now talking about being nationalistic, it could be Ijaw nation. It could be Yoruba nation. It could be Benue nation. So like the example is cited, that guy that was talking was saying it the way it is.
But it's a dangerous trend.
But ended it with iPod nationalistic tendency there. Right. So there's a difference between being patriotic and being nationalistic.
Gentlemen, how did we get to this point?
Sure.
We go back now. The Azikiwes, the
Awolowos. When I started my reaction,
were called nationalists, and we saw them being celebrated for their advocacy for celebrating Nigeria as one.
You know, when
as
I started,
one entity.
When I started answering you, I said, in all, Buhari is not the creator of what we are facing in Nigeria now. But he ought to have developed a kind of a body language, philosophy, that will lay a foundation towards solving the problems we are facing. All right? Now the issue is this. The way he is, without telling anybody, people see him, somebody like me, as protecting a particular section of the country than the other, in view of what is happening to herdsmen vis-a-vis what has happened to iPod.
To IPOB.
Do you understand?
Okay, okay.
Now, you can now see the difference now from being nationalistic and being patriotic.
Okay.
If you now go to Awolowo, Azikiwe, and all of that, you could see that they were always talking about the country.
But doctor, I understand your position. I respect your views.
Thank you.
But then we can also argue further by saying these divides, these ethnic divides have always been there even before President Buhari came on board.
Yes.
So are we not putting too much attention on one person now? How about we address the issue? They've been there. The herdsmen have always been clashing. There have also been concerns,
But
religious
has
and
not been to this level.
and all that. And then there are officers, also been argued that, of course, there are officers, the delegation of authority and all that. So why can't we, address it? Why can't we take this as a wholesome problem, not just putting it on one person?
The onus lies on the leadership. And I think I digressed a bit from the point I was trying to make. He has not made it easy for Nigerians because he doesn't communicate well enough.
Yeah.
There is a way that communication solves a lot of problems. And we have had leaders that even when people question their motives for some things, because they communicated. That's why they used to call one of our ex-leaders Maradona. He was a smooth communicator. He was a smooth driver. He knew how to, meet different tendencies and give them the requirements. And even when, that was why it was difficult for him to be toppled for 8 years. When you agitate, he knew the person to pick from you and would talk to, so that you talk to your people. So when you have all these things going on, a leader must come up and at every point in time, drive hope to the people.
All right.
So that's one. Number two, and to quickly summarize and deconstruct what we're saying, being nationalistic and patriotic are the same thing. But when you dissect it further, you will see that the tribal tendencies can come to play in the nationalistic approach more than the patriotic.
So let's go all out now to advocate true patriotism. Gentlemen, Dr. Kayode and Mr. Shijibumi Bennett, thank you to you both for your contributions.
Thank you.
Let's head into the papers now, see what the headlines are in Nigeria. To do justice to this and to these, I have in the studio public affairs analyst Shijibumi Adebi Bennett, as well as political technocrat Dr. Dayo Kayode. Gentlemen, it's nice to have you join us in the studio.
Thank you for having us.
Very good. Let's start from Daily Trust. That's where we'll start from this morning. And it is saying how 20 people, 80 animals died in Bauchi road accident. Really a tragic one there. Okay, from Daily Trust, let's move now to the blueprint that says Bello to ex-leaders. Don't incite Nigerians against Buhari. Lawan, Ganduje, Sanusi, others preach peace, unity at Salah. Then to Daily Sun. Daily Sun says Salah tragedy, 26 killed in Bauchi, Lagos. Sultan Wike, other governors greet Nigerians at Eid al-Kabir. All right, it's really a sad situation, an accident there. All right, now moving from there to the Nigerian News Direct. The News Direct is talking about the China-US trade war, and he said it threatens Nigeria 2019 budget. Foreign reserves, oil prices nosedive And federal government must revive 60, or must review rather, $60 per barrel benchmark. As the president of APCON is saying this. Okay, the international price of crude now is about $58. And a lot of people are saying, well, it's a volatile thing and might still bounce up again depending on how things go in the international market. Let's move now to The Nation. The Nation newspaper is next now. Jonathan's ex-aide, senator linked to Iwu's 1.2 billion naira cash. 6 others under probe over election bribery fund. You find that on the front page of The Nation newspaper. Okay, from there, let's go to the Vanguard now. The Vanguard is the next and also the last. Confusion as police seal anti-theft bodies offices. And the office sealed based on complaints. As the police is saying this. Obunobla in Cross River says not perturbed by sacked news and adds its corruption fight back. Okay. All right, that's what you see back and forth on the front pages. But gentlemen, it's Salah after all, and there are messages of Salah. Usually at times like this, either Salah celebration or Christmas celebration, you see messages from the president, from leaders, from emirs, from traditional rulers to Nigerians and all of that. However, we have also heard comments that those greetings is good, but we want to be able to see the real transformation and prosperity of the people. This time is a time to reflect on what Nigeria is, the unity of Nigeria, and see how they can use the time to, bolster the prosperity for the country. Shidibumi, what do you see from the perspective of leaders actually using this opportunity of the celebration like this to unite the country?
Every year, we are used to all those rhetorics, and leaders, I think some of them even have signed messages. You just change, when it's Salah, you put Salah, when it's Christmas, you put Christmas. So I just believe, because, there are some things that comes from the mind, that comes from your inner man. When things like these when holidays or festivals like these are being celebrated, the topical issue at that point in time, it's a good avenue to address it and speak from the mind. This insecurity we're having, these kidnappings, this banditry, the teaching, the message of Salah, how can we use it to address it? So those are the things I'm expecting our leaders to talk about. Not, don't incite somebody about the president, not all of that rhetorics that we're used to. But it's like we the citizens, we don't even expect all these things from them. We're used to, people will say we're docile, or we're just tenacious people. We're used to all this, okay, Salah, this person said this. We don't even attach anything to the messages anymore. But I think, like I said the last time, communication is key. The Second World War was won via communication. That is Winston Churchill. They were losing, and he kept on saying they were winning. And the Germans were like, is there something this man is saying that we're not seeing?
That we're not seeing. Exactly.
So there's a way you can, you can talk to us.
It was also the issue of communication that sparked off the genocide in Rwanda.
Exactly.
We saw the wrong use of communication. Now, Dr. Kaide, before we round off right now, when it comes to the issue of speaking for, against, we often see comments from different people from different regions and all of that. How can we galvanize all of these into uniting the country?
Yes. As much as I want to agree with my brother, I want to add another angle to it. The people themselves. What is their level of understanding as regards that word religion?
Okay.
All right? Perhaps I should even...
You think Nigerians don't understand what religion is?
So many people. Even pastors, I'm sorry to say this, and the imams. What is the beginning of even religion? In those days, in the beginning, as we read, Adam and Eve were in the Garden of Eden, they committed sin and they were thrown out, and then they started having children and all that, and along the line, They now look at it. In the first instance, our forefathers used to talk to God directly. How can we now be talking to God directly too? That is, how do we go back to God? And mark all these people are now in different places. So each and everybody now decide to develop how to do that. Then go back to our forefather Abraham too. Ishmael and Isaac. Do you understand? Christian and Muslim. Now, let us now come again to Bible and Quran. When I read my Bible as much as I also read my Quran. And between you and me, the two are saying the same thing. I was with a Muslim friend yesterday. He opened a place for me in the Quran. I even said when I see him again, maybe today or tomorrow, I'm still going to...
So you've been doing Quranic studies as Bible study is?
I'm telling you,
all right,
it's all the same.
Yeah, we
so
have to round it off.
We should learn this thing so that we know that we serve the same God.
All right.
Your name is this. My name is this.
Yeah.
You are putting on a suit. I'm not putting on. That doesn't reduce me as myself.
Exactly.
It doesn't make you above me.
All right.
So that is all about religion.
So it brings us back to the issue of unity and understanding.
Exactly.
Thank you very much, Dr. Dayo Kayode, for your perspective on this. Thank you. Chijibomi, thank you so much for coming on the program as well. Thank you. Right.